Hello, all of you. In this module of crew resource management, there are several subjects we learn from human error to teamwork to leadership to communication. All the subjects, I find communication is the most important one, and therefore I chose to carry out conduct a class on communication to start with. You would realize communication is the basic process by which human beings interact. It's the it's a process of conveying an idea, conveying our thoughts, conveying an instruction, uh, and interact, receive instruction with the purpose of carrying out a task which has been assigned to us in a coordinated manner. Also, there are exchange of ideas and there are exchange of uh, information, data, which gets conveyed across from one person to another. I have put some lessons in which I have covered the entire theory. So we will not dwell too much into the theory. I shall just introduce you to the subject. Okay. Communication. Communication happens between every now and then amongst human beings, and there are several exchange of information, thought processes which happen. Now, to simplify the process of communication, there is a person who wants to convey a message, and there is a medium through which uh, the message would be conveyed, and there is a receiver for whom the message is intended to, and he is going to receive the message, and he is going to interpret the message in a particular manner, and he is going to execute or act according to his understanding of the idea which he has received. So it's not a very simple process. It's a step-by-step process uh, in which there could be issues and problems which we will briefly discuss. There are in life you may have come across several uh, situations where there was a message which was intended to be communicated, but the message which the message which got the message which got interpreted was something else. So uh, that's to start with. There is the scope for distortion in communication is to start with it. It begins there from the very person from which the communication starts. That means the communication of instructions or his thoughts are to be absolutely be clear. It's a skill which has to be developed over a period of time, and it has to be deliberately developed. And the medium through which it gets conveyed. There are several mediums, there are several ways it can be conveyed. One is simple process of using words. You just tell a word or sentences or paragraph, and it get conveyed across. Now it depends on the skill of the conveyor of the message, how well he puts across his thought process to the person who intends to receive the uh, message. He may have thought of something, but due to his choice of incorrect words or his own uh, communication skills, he could be conveying something different from what he actually intended to convey. Anyway, now the receiver himself, his own disposition, his own how well he received the message, how did he attend to it carefully, did he do due diligence before capturing every word, the idea, or the essence of the communication which has to be received. There are several factors, and therefore there is scope for the process to be distorted in the entire chain of events. Now, there are several mediums in which communication takes place. In an organization, there could be simple forms of communication by way of notices, or big messages or policy matters could be conveyed across through publications, books, etc. But in a day to day environment, they the instructions could be conveyed across in a particular meeting which is conducted on a regular basis. So there are several mediums through which the message that could be conveyed. Now, one of the important aspects which I want to explain is uh, non-verbal communication. Non-verbal communication is very powerful way of conveying some messages or your idea about the message, your facial expressions or your reactions, or the way you move about your body language, etc. etc. These are all very powerful. Just a clap of hands after a speaker conveyed a very good idea, is a very good form of non-verbal communication. So, the, uh, in fact, non-verbal communication affect quite make a quite an impact, and they make an impact on even verbal communication. If your non-verbal communication, your acts are not in coherence with the words which you speak, the conveyor will surely not will not get the correct message or the feedback which you may like to give the communicator. So that's a very powerful medium. Now, coming to aviation, having gone through the several accident incidents, we know that communication is utmost important. I just want to recall an accident which has taken place long time back in a military organization. It was a short flight between A and B. It was a positioning flight. Probably there were only the crew which were flying an empty aircraft, and it crashed. The weather was not very marginal. It just crashed short of a airport uh, in a hilly terrain. Now, when the cockpit voice recorder was read back, it was astonishing that there was absolutely no communication between the captain and the co-pilot throughout the last half an hour of the flight. Each one were on his own. They were doing their own jobs, and there seems to be absolutely uh, no interaction that has taken place in between uh, these two crew. That was something amazing and astonishing, which is almost impossible. So this I just wanted to bring out a point that what all can go wrong in a communication environment. I mean, a lack of communication environment. Therefore, I don't need to overemphasize the need of good communication within the cockpit. And the aircraft manufacturer over several years have realized that improper communication could lead to disasters and incidents and accidents and property damage, etc. So they have been modifying the standard operating procedures and rewritten the operating books, checklist, etc., dovetailing the need for correct communication practices within the cockpit. In fact, as the days go by, the communication process within the cockpit is becoming more and more structured. That means there is no scope for individuals to interpret anything. There are fixed words which we are using, and there is a fixed meaning, and so that's the only way to go to avoid communication breakdown process within the cockpit. However, I must emphasize it's simply not possible. It's simply not possible to structure communication process for the entire duration of the flight. That you will appreciate. There could be several mm, situations, emergency situations, or incident situations, failure situations, in which there had to we have to communicate non-structured manner to exchange our ideas and interactions. Thereby, the need to improve communication skills for all our pilots, all our crew. Therefore, this communication module becomes very important for every aircrew. Not only amongst aircrew within the cockpit does communication take place, the communication takes place between the engineering staff and the crew, between the air traffic control and the crew, and crew to crew between other aircraft sometimes to clarify some of the things, some of the instructions. So, if you want to become a good captain, a professional airline captain, you have to deliberately improve the communication skills, make it a habit to use structured and structured communication practices, and try to deliberately improve your communication skills by taking feedback and taking a positive taking the feedback positively, and uh, that way you are going to become a professional captain. That way you are going to become very a small, very sought after captain in your airline, and for sure it is going to help you in one day when you need the help from your co-pilots or from air traffic control when you are in an emergency situations. So thereby I introduce you to the subject. I have put some videos in